Lunch and learn. This time we did it. Glad to see you all here. Those that may not know me, I'm Fritz Hamer. I used to be the curator of history and the archivist. Ben Baptiste, he's my successor, and he's also an IT expert. And I work part-time still. So. I'm excited to introduce you our speaker today, who is a native of Los Angeles, but whose mother is an Eastern South Carolina native, and her father is a native of Mississippi, New Orleans. And Catherine and her husband, Nikki, have traveled the world, lived in many places, from Hong Kong to Memphis, where Nikki's from. They now live in Connecticut.
But we're not Yankees.
I'm a Yankee, but she's not. Okay? Over the years, she has done a lot of research and done presentations on topics related to World War II. And this gem that she's been working on is directly connected to her father, who was a soldier in World War II. And I'm going to now give it to Catherine. Catherine, take it away.
Thank you, Fritz. And as I said earlier, Fritz said that I could flirt. So if you ladies don't mind if I flirt, but remember, this is Rosie the Riveter. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to my ancestral state. I am, as Fritz said, I am from Los Angeles, but my roots in South Carolina go deep. My mother, Eva Lee Brown, was a native who could trace her roots in South Carolina to about 1700. And her ties to the military history of South Carolina predate the Revolutionary War. She was a direct descendant of Samuel Greenfield Barr, who was a Revolutionary soldier, and I guess during the talk back, Fritz can tell you what unit and all that he was in. He was actually Jewish. And his grave is mere miles from my mother's homestead, was her homestead in East South Carolina. My mother was a child of the Great Depression, and she threw nothing away. Nothing. She died on Mother's Day, 2001, and she left behind a treasure trove of memories, mostly in the form of letters in envelopes. And she just started writing to people, and during World War II, her brothers left, her sisters left. They married soldiers. And then, of course, there was the Greenville Army Air Base, and so she wrote to soldiers there. So that's my South Carolina introduction. Okay, my talk is on Rosie the Riveter, the iconic woman who can do it. Okay, what are my credentials? I am not a historian. I was not a Rosie during World War II. I am not a Rosebud, the daughter of a Rosie. But I have a special connection to the Roses. I am the daughter of a soldier who had a number of Rosies in his life. So may I call myself a rose petal? Okay. My ties to my father's Roses are through the letters that Rosies wrote to him that my mother saved. And I know what you're thinking. Your mother saved the love letters of your father's girlfriends? Yes. So one day I asked Aunt B, and her response was, well, Kat, that don't make no difference either. She don't care. And through the letters, I have come to love my father's Roses, and I'm pretty confident my mother would have liked them too. And you're going to find that my father's Roses were pretty feisty. Actually, I call them the brassy broads. The Rosies became Rosies as the boys marched off to World War II, but the seeds of the Rosies predate that. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in one of his fireside chats in December 1940, did this, and I'm going to do my very best FDR voice. We must have more ships, more guns, more planes, more of everything. We must be the great arsenal of democracy. For us, this is an emergency as serious as war itself. In 1942, the Bureau of Labor Statistics predicted a big problem, a labor shortage. The U.S. economy could lose 6 million jobs. Who's going to build the ships, the tanks, the parachutes, the airplanes in those arsenals of democracy? The women. The U.S. government took action. The Office of War Information set out a campaign to attract women with posters like, "Do you mean me? Take a job the boys left behind. I'm proud. My husband is so proud of me for being a Rosie," or "This is my fight too." The Rosies more than answered the call. I like to say, if you want a job done right, get a woman to do it. Did my father see these posters? I like to imagine they needed no coaxing, that they just went and enlisted. The first letters from the Rosies date from the summer of 1942. My father had been drafted in June 1941, and by January of 1942, he was stationed at Ellington Field, Texas. My father was the oldest of five Ladnier boys, and all four of his brothers served in the U.S. Army overseas. One of my fathers decided to give his older brother some advice. January the 3rd, 1942. "My dear drafted brother, so you joined the ranks of the draggers. That's what we call them. Do your feet ache? What did you expect, to ride around in a truck? When I was a rookie in this army, I never wrote to mother telling her my feet hurt. You haven't seen anything yet. Wait till you march 10 miles a day. If the day is hot and your feet begin to sweat and blister, then you know you've had a little walk for yourself. Regards to the money you asked for. I never asked for it when I was making $21 a month. There's no reason why you can't get along on it, and my advice to you is you better start learning right now to get along on practically nothing." How do you like the Army otherwise? How do you like the food? How do you like the needles they stick in your arm? How many have you taken? Do you live in tents or barracks? Do they let you go to town yet? Hoping this letter catches you in the best of spirits and health. Your kid brother. My father had friends he kept in touch with. January the 5th, 1942. "Hi, Harry. You old Santa Monica rat. How you making out?" "Fine, I hope. What are you doing now? You still driving a truck? I'm sorry to hear that your blonde got married. I like this camp swell now that I got to know a few tomatoes in Waco. Harry, I'm not a sergeant yet. I'm still a corporal. Harry, if I ever get a chance to come to Houston, I will look you up and we'll go and throw a hissy together. You know, get some tomatoes." P.S. I'm going to try and get a furlough on January the 15th if I can. Grover. Tomatoes. And I don't think Grover was referring to the Solanum hypocrispium. More letters from old friends in Los Angeles where my father grew up. But Daddy was born in Biloxi, Mississippi. He left Biloxi when he was a little boy. His parents were part of the great Creole migration from New Orleans to Los Angeles. The family home in Biloxi was taken over by Keesler Air Force Base in 1943, and many Tuskegee airmen trained there, and some of them were Creoles. My father had a close-knit group of buddies and fishing buddies from Santa Monica and their wives, Harold and Shirley, Woody, and Matt. By the time Harry started his new life in Ellington Field, things had changed pretty much dramatically in Santa Monica, but some things stayed the same. July the 28th, 1942. Dear Harry, well, I guess it's about time I dropped you a line. Things out here are pretty much the same. Harold and Shirley were over last Sunday. We played some poker and blackjack. Remember Orville? Well, he went and got himself all tattooed up again, all over his arms. Must have went hog wild or something. He's got one tattoo of a dame with Betty on it. Maybe it's the Betty. Harold saw her last week and she weighs a ton. In Santa Monica, you have to drive your car with the lights dim at night. Lots of cars just drive without lights. Sure is nice on a dark night. They used to give you a ticket for driving without lights. Now it's just the opposite. The fishing ain't what it used to be. They won't let the boats go out very far, and you have to have $2 license, a birth certificate, and sign up with the Coast Guard before they let you out. My husband was in the Coast Guard. He was on patrol then. Since Mac went to work at the plant, we've been saving our money, and we are going to buy a house. Once we pay for it, and Shirley got a job at the plant. I just get up, work, and sleep. It sure gets old. Your pal Woody. The plant Woody refers to as the Douglas Aircraft Plant in Santa Monica. Los Angeles was the heart of manufacturing for aircraft, while San Francisco was for boats, ships. Douglas Aircraft jointly with Boeing developed the B-17, the Flying Fortress. The plant at its height employed 160,000 people, and many of those women worked there, the Rosies. Mac. Wednesday, January the 29th, 1942. Hello, Harry. Did you think we had all died or forgotten you? We're such busy people, you know. We don't have much time with Woody sleeping till noon and me trying to make him get up. I don't have time to write to anyone. Boy, I certainly am a working woman now. I'm running a drill press. All I do for 8 hours is drill all different size holes. I sure get tired of looking at holes. My hands are so cut up they look worse than Woody's. My friend Laurel cut one of her fingers to the bone the other day and had to have a couple of stitches. Well, Harry, it won't be long until one day older. You will soon be 30. I'll be 24, and Woody will be 29 in September. Be good and careful. Lots of luck. I can just see Mac drilling those holes, and I can see poor Laurel. Women soon learned and experienced the dangers of factory work, and there were other difficulties in this. Women may have taken off their aprons and put on overalls. Yet when the Rosies got home, after a long day, the overalls went off, the aprons went back on. Many of the Rosies were wives and mothers, and surely should know. Sunday, October the 14th, 1942. Hello, Harry. Decided to answer your letter at last. If I didn't write you a letter, you would never hear from Harold because he doesn't like to write letters. Well, you should be a married man by now. Are you? How was your trip to Wichita? Write and tell us all about it. I'm not working at Douglas anymore. Only worked 5 weeks. I sure hated to quit as I loved the job, but things just didn't go right at home. Annabelle was taking care of the kids for me, but I wasn't quite satisfied with the upkeep of the house, so I decided it's best to quit and continue to be a housewife. Harold's mother is going to aircraft school for Douglas. At the end of 6 weeks, she's going into the plant. Write soon and tell us all about your trip, your wife, Army life, and yourself. Yours truly, Shirley. A bit more about Harry's trip to Wichita later. Amongst the basket of memories on Harry was a book which came out in 1943, Journey Through Chaos by Agnes Meyer. She dedicated it to her son, Captain Eugene Meyer, the 34th Fighter Wing, and her son-in-law, Lieutenant Phil Graham of the U.S. Air Force. Agnes traveled through the country to study, as she put it, the social impact of the war effort. Her journey was chronicled in the Washington Post. Agnes's daughter was Catherine, and Philip would return home. He and Catherine Graham became editors of the Washington Post. Agnes saw firsthand the impact of the war upon women. Chapter 1, Buffalo, New York. Practically all of the women, 42% of the entire force in some factories, are new to industry. They have not yet learned how to manage 2 jobs at once, and often they are forced to absent themselves when housework just piles up. The hand that holds the riveter cannot walk the cradle at the same time. And who came to Rosie's rescue? Uncle Sam. Thanks to Agnes, I learned of the Lanham Act of 1940, which authorized war-related grants, and in 1943, the U.S. government passed Universal child care. You heard me right. Universal child care. Uncle Sam knew that the Rosies needed help. Rosie, who came up with the name Rosie? Well, I have read of 3 women who could possibly be the Rosie, but I'm going to select one who has connections to the nutmeg state where I live. Rosalind P Walter. In 2020, Rosalind died at the age of 95, born into a very wealthy family. She went to work at the Corsair factory in Stratford, Connecticut. She was a riveter. Among building fighter planes, an article was written about her which led to the song, Rosie the Riveter. All day long, whether rain or shine, she's part of the assembly line. She's making history, working for victory. Rosie the Riveter. In 1942, Tin Pan Alley realized that patriotic songs urging Americans to rally around the flag didn't cut it and sell sheepies. Let's put new glory into old glory. Didn't make the hit parade. And even the great Irving Berlin had a few duds like, any bonds today? Americans wanted songs like Rosie the Riveter. And Americans wanted songs of love, like, I'll be seeing you. Or how about, the very thought of you, and I forget to do. Or how about, don't sit under the apple tree with anyone else but me. And my father's Rosies wrote of love. November the 24th, 1942. Hello, Harry. Why are you constantly on my mind, even in my sleep? In the hush of evening, when shadows cross my room, I think of you being near me and holding me in your arms, and I'm in big, strong arms. Oh, what's the use of writing all about it? It won't do me any good, just make me more lonesome. I feel fine today, and I'm being a good girl, so stay sweet until tomorrow night and have lots of loving for me. Thinking of my blue eyes tonight. Stay as sweet as you are and don't flirt about pretty blondes. Love and kisses, Mary. Hello, Harry. I don't know what's been making me feel so bad these last few days, but I'm sure it isn't Santa Claus. Gee, honey, you made me feel lots better when I heard your voice. Honey, since I met you, I can't get you off my mind, and I don't know why unless I like you. Seems strange how a person can appeal to you in a short time. Just careless. Hello, Harry. It seems ages since I last saw you, and it's only been a few days. I've been really busy since you left and have not caught up with my work yet. And as soon as I get through writing a few lines, I'll have to go and get my ration book. Won't that be fun? I've been thinking of you just lots and wondering if you were too. I'll see you Sunday as we planned. I sure hope you're enjoying the book, darling. Take a puff when you think of me. Well, I'll close for now. I'm hoping to see you soon. You're a rascal, baby. I told you they'd be not. Rascal baby had to use her war ration issued by the Office of Price Administration to get gas. She pledged to use it only in the manner for purposes authorized by the Office of Price Administration. Rascal baby wasn't the only one who wasn't having fun with gas rationing. Hutchinson, Kansas. Dear friend, we were so glad to get your nice letter to know you reached camp safely and with a promotion waiting for you. I sure hope your furlough was a lot of help to you. Of course it wasn't near long enough. How happy we'll be when all you boys come home and can stay and not ever go back. Things look a little more favorable all the time, if I'm hearing the truth. And perhaps this will be over someday. The holidays are close and this gas rationing is going to be hard on everyone. I've been so anxious to go see my son. He's in school at Eastern A&M College in Wilburton, Oklahoma. I had hoped to drive over and spend Christmas with him. We'll have to stay home now. Lots of workers are leaving town, afraid they won't have gas enough to get home if they wait. Your friends Floyd and Chet. Gas rationing wasn't the only thing that was rationed. tires, sugar, can you imagine the sugar in the South? Meat, canned food, amongst other things. The ration book contained patriotic stamps redeemed at the store, and it was a criminal offense to violate rationing requirements. Rationing just added to Rosie's already busy schedule. She was not just a riveter, she was the chief cook and bottle washer. Canned food made Rosie's meals a bit easier, and those tin cans were valuable in another way. The cans were used in the world. The ration book read, important, when you have used your ration, salvage the tin cans and waste fats. They are needed to make munitions for our fighting men. Coordinate with your local salvage committee. Can you imagine tin cans turned into bullets? Anyway, reading the letters of my father's Roses opened my eyes to women who were called upon to do a man's job and did it just as well, if not better, than the men. And this transformation was almost overnight. Life magazine, August the 9th, 1943. In 1942, only 1% of aviation employees were women. This year, they will make up some 65% of the total. Of the 16 million women now employed in the U.S., over a quarter are in war industry. Although the concept of the weaker sex sweating near blast furnaces is accepted in Russia and England, it always been foreign to American tradition. Only the rising need for labor has forced this revolutionary adjustment. In her journey through chaos, Agnes Meyer visited Detroit and the Ford plant. She interviewed Edsel Ford, who would attest to the ability of the Rosies. Quote, the women have already been a great influence in our organization. As many of them are coming into the workforce for patriotic reasons, they are superior in intelligence and general education to the men. They are dignified. They have dignified the area of working in a factory. They get the same pay as the men for the same work, but they are not working for money alone. And that changes morale and even increases production. If you want a job right, get a woman to do it. Same pay for the same job. And Mr. Ford was progressive in another way that helped the Rosies. He proposed a split shift so the Rosies could help each other with housework and childcare. I like that. Now a trip to Wichita, Kansas. In Journey Through Chaos, Agnes Meyer devoted a chapter to Wichita. As she wrote, Wichita was the geographic center of the country and an important industrial center. And so that Wichita was also the breadbasket of the country's richest wheat area. Like so many areas, the population of Wichita doubled as workers streamed to the city for the airplane industry. The Rosies of Wichita were making the aircraft that would spearhead the liberation of Europe on D-Day. My father's Wichita Rosie was Georgia. I have more letters from Georgia than any other of his Rosies. It appeared to be a serious relationship. How did they meet? What happened to Georgia? The letters do not answer those questions. The first letter, August 1942. Dearest Harry, I have read your letter and so glad you are fine. I'm better now, but I've been so sick today. I saw a boy get 3 fingers cut practically off and near fainted. They put me on a bench for 3 hours. The guard gave me dope for my nerves. He called the doctors and he said to stay in bed. I was suffering from shock. I'm up now writing you this letter. I feel like I want to scream. I can't be still 1 minute. I've never had anything like this happen to me in my life. I've seen terrible things. You don't need to worry. I'm going to be fine in a few hours. I'm glad you think I'm the sweetest girl in the world. Maybe you'll be disappointed later. I just got a letter from home and my brothers, 17 and 18 years old, have a job at the Garden City plant at $100 a month apiece. I'm so glad because my father needs help to support a family of 10. I'm homesick. I get to go home in about 10 days. Right soon, GB, September the 16th, 1942. My darling Harry, I received your letter today. I was so glad to hear from you again. I'm sorry about what I last wrote to you. Please don't worry about me now. I'm doing swell in my work. I've been assigned assistant inspector. They put me there today. It's really swell. While you're on guard duty, try not to get into the guardhouse. You're too fine a person for such a place. I'm so proud. If you could send me the ring to look at. If you care for Beck, I hope I won't have to give you no for answer. Do you really think I could make you happy? If we get married, I'll certainly do my best. Of course, you know, I'll have to stay on my job for the duration. It's my duty to my country. I'm working on gliders. My job is keeping me here. Dearest, do come here in October. Anyhow, send the ring, okay? I need a lot to me. Right soon. Lots of love, Georgia. Gliders. Georgia was working on those lightweight, engineless aircraft, first developed by the Germans after World War I. The U.S. started producing them in 1941. The gliders were so important to D-Day as the paratroopers flew over the beaches of Normandy. And the gliders certainly contributed to the liberation of Europe. As I read Georgia's letter, I thought of her gliders carrying soldiers quietly streaming over the beaches of Normandy. What happened to the soldiers that were on Rosie's gliders, Georgia's gliders? I thought about a pilgrimage I made many years ago to Normandy, and I went to the sweet village of Saint-Mer. And I'll never forget seeing this paratrooper hanging from the steeple of a church pretending to be dead. Of course, it was a mannequin, but it was very realistic. September the 25th, 1942. My dear Harry, I received your nice letter. So glad to hear from you. I got the ring. It's just too beautiful for words. It's a perfect fit. What you said about me changing my mind, I don't know what you mean. I told you to send the ring if you cared to. And when we get together, we'll see. I'm not wearing the ring. If anything should happen that may change anything, then the ring can be returned. You don't know. Lots of things could happen. You hardly know me. I'm going to give you a chance to find out for sure when you come. Ours was love at first sight. But when you come, we won't have much time together. I have to work from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day, 7 days a week. I'll give you all the time I can, though. I send him $45 a week to buy coal and warmer clothes for my small brothers and sisters. I have no use for much money here, enough for room and board, and the rest goes home. I'll always love you. Your mother must be very sweet to pick out such a lovely ring. Thanks, Lynn. I love you, Harry. Lots of love, Georgia. Were Harry and Georgia engaged? It sure seems that they were marching in that direction, and my grandmother got into the action. Los Angeles, September 16, 1943. Dear Bud, just received your letter. I mailed you a letter yesterday telling you I can't get you a ring, for I have to have a third down. Say a ring would cost $25. I would need $6.50, and I don't believe you can get a ring for $25. Herbert sends his war bond here. They're in my name, but I can't cash them. Love, Mom. Did my grandmother find the money to buy Georgia a ring? I don't know, but Georgia got a ring from Harry. My father's younger brother, Herbert, was serving in the Army. Uncle Herbie fought in the Battle of the Bulge. Georgia was certainly a hard-working Rosie. 1943, saw her on the move. Headquarters, 375th Sub-Depot, Office of Engineering Officer, Garden City, Kansas. Dearest Harry, how are you? I'm fine and dandy. As you can see by this paper, I have a job at our Army base. I'm a mechanics helper in the sheet metal department. Right now, I am filling technical orders. I'll be working for the Air Corps. I'd like so much to see you again. Some of these days we'll be together again. Last week, my sister and I went to Hutchinson to see a friend of mine and get some clothes. We had the grandest time. We stayed for 5 days. There are nearly 2,000 soldiers So she had a good time. She has nearly all the soldiers on the run. Harry, something has happened that you must know. When I get the nerve to tell you, it hurts me. It hurts me. It's what I prayed would never happen. Please don't worry, dear, about me. Everything will be for the best. I'm sure you are so sweet and deserve much more than I could ever give you. Write soon. There's not a thing to worry about. Hoping to hear from you soon. As ever, your loving pal, Georgia. What happened to Georgia? When I get the nerve to tell you, her letters do not answer the question. 2 months later, Georgia has relocated to the Army Air Force Base's flying school. She's still a Rosie. Dearest Harry, I'm answering your nice letters. I was glad to hear from you. It would be so good if you could come to Kansas. Do you think there's a chance? I'm on the second shift. I work from 3 p.m. until 11:30 p.m. That's not going to be so good. I'm still waiting for the picture for my locket. It's nearly time for me to go to work, so I must close for now. Please answer soon. Write more often. I still love you, no matter how long it might be. Forever yours, Georgia B. No matter how long it might be. George is a mystery to me. I only wish I could find the answer. In the summer of 1943, my father was transferred to Danville Field, Augusta, Georgia, which is not far from here. Before leaving Texas, a fellow soldier gave Harry some advice about his new surroundings. July the 5th, 1943, Corporal Harry Ladnier, Ellington Field, Texas. Hello, Harry. I'm a pissed off soldier if you ever heard of one. I sure as hell like to see you come here and get some ass. The women will see you coming and run like hell. I told you they were naughty. There are about 50 soldiers to every girl. This town is not much larger than South Houston, and half of it's off limits. I went in one time and damn street bus ran over my foot. I'm at the hospital now with a mashed up foot. They didn't know there was a war going on until the Texas boys came. Well, I close for now and get some more sleep. Your pal, Goldbrick Swearingen. P.S. About 200 soldiers arrived here from Ellington yesterday. Boy, were they pissed off. Goldbrick's salty language didn't quite surprise me. What surprised me was that pissed off was used in 1943. Some 14 million men served in the military during World War II. The ladies could have their pick. Harry heard from Georgia. August the 1st, 1943. My dear Harry, at last I'm answering your letter. I'm sorry to hear that you don't like the camp in Augusta. Harry, I'm waiting for the day to come when I'll see you again. I am recovering from my operation. It made me feel so good to know that you were thinking of me at the time. My oldest brother, Johnny, goes to the Army Tuesday. It makes me feel so terrible to think of him at a time like this. It's something we must face. I only wish I was doing more. Soon, as I get my strength back and feel better, I'm going to try to join either the WACs or the Waves. Do you think it's a wise thing to do? My parents don't approve. Maybe I shouldn't do it. Hoping to hear from you soon. I remain as ever. Lots of love, Georgia. Did Georgia enlist in the WACs, the Women's Army Corps, or the Waves, Navy, Women for volunteer reserves? I have no idea. Nothing. Whatever happened to Georgia? I don't know. There's her name. A mystery. It remains a mystery. Reading the letters of my father's Rosies, I sensed that women were casting off the traditional role assigned to women for generations and adopting a new role. As revolutionaries putting on overalls and picking up a drill. And this revolutionary adjustment liberated the women who took on this new role. And Harry's Rosies were pretty bold. I was a bit startled when I read one of them, taken from Freedom, Sunday afternoon, July 15, 1943. Dearest Harry, please pardon me for not writing sooner, but I've been so damn drunk. I didn't know my rear end from a hole in the ground. I missed 3 days of work and quarreled with my best friend. Besides the money I spent, so I really don't know whether it was worth it or not. Of course, I'm on the same darn shift. But I guess I'm just getting resigned to my fate or something, probably something.
Boy, it's really hot here. I think it's hell if any hotter than this. I'm going to change my ways, and that might not be a bad idea. Maybe. This is really a hell of a time for me to write you, as I'm just as blue as I can be. I sure wish you were here to cheer me up. I gotta find me a room or apartment as a place where living is sold, and that's not so easy. I betcha. Well, honey, please answer me real soon, and I promise to answer as soon as I get your letter. Love, Cleta. Like Georgia, Cleta was a Kansas girl. Did they know each other? I have only one letter from Cleta. How did Cleta and Harry meet? Another mystery. Oh, God. Lordy, here comes Lois. Another brassy broad. Total, we're not in Kansas anymore. Croton, Pennsylvania. September 16, 1943. Dearest Harry, I got your letter and was glad to hear from you. I hope you have your family by now. Yes, I still love you very much, and I always will, but I can never forget that little incident that happened at Houston. And in my heart, I still believe you meant every word you said. And I know she meant her part of it. And after you wanted to kiss her right before my very eyes. Well, you must have liked her better than you like me. Oh, well, skip it. I want to see you before you're sent out of the country. Someday maybe we will meet again. I hope so. Listen, my sweet one. Thanks for the advice about staying out of beer joints. I never have the time. A person can't so much as buy a glass of beer on Sunday, and that's the only time I have one. I work from 4:30 p.m. to 2 a.m. And by that time, I have to get home to get some rest. This work isn't easy, you know. I had better close. Write me soon with all the news. Lots of love to you. As always, I love you, Lois. P.S. My new name is Tex. No more letters from Lois. No more letters from Georgia. No more letters from the other Rosies. I do not want to give the impression that my father was a Casanova or Lothario. Harry was a kind, fun-loving man and a loyal friend. The Rosie letters are testament to his character. As Georgia said, you were a fine man. Harry didn't stay long at Daniel Field. In September 1943, he was in Greenville, South Carolina. Now corporate Harry Ladnier said it was at the Greenville Service Center Training Center. One evening, Harry goes to USO in downtown Greenville, and there he meets a little lady from Eastland, Eva Lee Brown, my mother. And Eva Lee was definitely not a brassy broad. Harry wrote to Eva Lee, Eva, as she was known, September 1943. Hello, honey. Talk about love at first sight. The next letter came 2 days later. Hello, Harry. Hello, honey. I received your nice letter. I won't be able to come to Eastland this Sunday. I will be on KP, Translation Kitchen Patrol. How you patrol kitchens doing. And by the time I get off, I will have to be ready for bed. Well, honey, I went over to the medical officer yesterday for my overseas physical. I did not pass. I guess I will be getting out of the Army before long. I hope I can get my furlough before long. Love, Harry. Another one. Hello, honey. Well, it looks like I will be discharged this Thursday. My unit is leaving soon, New York bound. My time is coming to an end. I will see you Wednesday. Love, Harry. My father was discharged in September 1943. His asthma was too severe. He would work literally his way back to California, stopping along the way. The first stop, Biloxi, Mississippi. Today, Biloxi is known for casinos, yet this old colonial town has a rich history. In 1699, Pierre Le Moyne landed in what is today Ocean Springs, Mississippi, claiming the land for France. New France, La Louisiane. Biloxi was the second capital of La Louisiane. In 1719, the French moved the capital to Nouvelle-Orléans. And the Ladniers can trace their history to the beginning of New France. In 1719, Catherine Ladnier landed in La Louisiane. A poor Swiss lad, he had been arrested in France as a tobacco smuggler. They put him on a boat, said au revoir, and he landed in Newville, France. He married Marie Barbara Brunel, and their children become the first Creoles of New France. There are more Creole Ladniers on the French Gulf Coast than there are trees. September the 7th, 1943. Hello, honey. Well, here I am at my aunt's house having a good time, wishing you were here. I'm going fishing tomorrow. I leave Monday for New Orleans to see the rest of my kinfolks. I don't know when I'll get back to California. With love, Harry. Next stop, Houston, Texas. Harry stayed in Houston for 5 months. He took a job building tanks to store for what he called new synthetic rubber. And then he saw some of his Texas roses. Hello, darling. Received your nice letter. And no, darling, I did not forget about you. I saw a few of my old girlfriends, but none of them can take your place. Write me all the news with all my love, Harry. Wordy, a few of my old friends. Next stop, Wichita, Kansas. Hello, honey. I'm in the great city of Wichita. I was glad to get out of Texas. I hated to give up a good job with the railroad. I was working there in the aircraft factory. I was talking with a girl working in the plant here. She was born in Charleston, South Carolina, and got married in Greenville. Her husband is in the Army. I won't be going to California for some time. I've been heading home for 9 months. I will close with lots of kisses and love, Harry. Many of the Roses, like the Rosie that my father just met, had husbands, sweethearts, brothers, sons in the military. And they knew that when they drilled an airplane or a tank, it had to be good because the safety of their loved ones depended upon it. Did my father visit the other Kansas Roses? I don't know. My father hit the road again, this time for California. Harry got back to Los Angeles, January 1945. Dearest Eva, I'm very sorry that I did not answer your letter, but honey, I went to pieces when I got home. One of my brothers was reported missing in action. I was so startled when I read this, missing in action. Which uncle? Could it be Uncle Herbie? He fought in the Battle of the Bulge, the Nazis' last hurrah. Harry closed this letter with a plaintive plea. Please let me know if you would ever come to California. I have never found a girl that could ever take your place. From this ex-soldier who will love you, only you, Harry C. Ladnier. May 8, 1945, Victory in Europe Day, VE Day, dearest. When I got home, I went to pieces when I learned that my brother was missing in action. Oh, thank God he is now safe in American hands. He was taken prisoner by the Germans. After this war is over, I intend to come back to Isa. I will never find a girl to take your place. From the one that still and always will love you, Harry C. Ladnier. Uncle Herbie was in a POW camp, a German POW camp. I can only imagine the anguish of my beloved grandmother. The war ended September the 2nd, 1945, VJ Day. All 4 of my uncles came home. And Georgia, Cleta, just careless and rascal baby, took off their overalls and went back to the kitchen. Yet things would not be the same for the American woman, nor the American man. The Rosies had experienced an independence that they would pass on to their daughters. I like to think that Rosies planted the seeds of women's liberation. Harry and Eva corresponded for 2 years. My father went back to work for the Southern Pacific Railroad in Los Angeles, and my mother continued to take care of her family farm and her father and wait for the return of her beloved younger brother, Bill. Back to Easley, Uncle Bill survived the sinking of the HMT Rona, the worst at-sea disaster in American history. Harry took the Sunset Limited back to South Carolina. Harry and Eva married, and the newlyweds took the Sunset Limited back to Los Angeles and started a new life. I was born. Mother decided that her new baby must meet the South Carolina kinfolks. So mother and baby daughter voted the Sunset Limited for South Carolina. My father was very observant, and he was a kind, loving father and a very, very observant man. My father wrote to my mother in South Carolina, writing that Kathy is the prettiest baby in California. Now she's the prettiest baby in South Carolina. And as my mother would say, a southerner is at liberty to revenge.
I told you they were Army. And Fritz said that I could flirt.
You can flirt. You have any questions or comments for Catherine?
Yes, sir.
Just curious, was your dad Army Air Force?
No, Army.
He was regular.
Yes.
And so what, do you have an idea of what his job specialty was within the Army?
That's a very good question. I don't know, and I'd like to find out. I really don't know. His Uncle Herbie, as I said, was in the Battle of the Bulge. Uncle Don served, his youngest younger brother. Uncle Don served in Italy. And Uncle Don actually introduced me to the bravery of the Japanese American, the Regimental Combat Team, the 442nd. And Uncle Arnold served in Panama, and Uncle Russell was in the Pacific.
Scattered all over the world.
Yeah, they were scattered all over the world.
It's just interesting to me, I'm a historian, if it says anything, but
Uh-huh.
it's interesting to me that he served primarily on Army Air Force bases or compounds.
Oh.
Every place you mentioned Army
You
Air
would know better than I.
Well, just it's curious.
Well,
to hear regular.
I can, let's see, if I have something here that would, let's see. The address in Greenville was, what did I say?
Greenville Army Air Base, wasn't it?
Well, no, it was a longer than that. Let's see, it was,
Oh, that's right. Service Center.
let's see. Well, in Ellington, he was the 74th VFT Squadron. I don't know what that is. What's a VFT Squadron?
That's a new one on me.
I'm not sure.
Anybody know?
So, does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Let's see if I can find it.
You said your family home was part of Keesler Air Force Base?
Yes,
I mean, I've been there, but is there anything left of it?
not that I'm aware of. You know, I would defer to my husband, he is the genealogist. They left. My grandfather worked the streetcars in New Orleans, and he could get a job with Southern Pacific Railroad. And so he got there, and actually this was my father's suitcase, and that's his initials on it. And he worked out what they called the bullpen, which was Union Station. If you've ever been to Los Angeles, Union Station is a beautiful old building, and my father also worked out of that station. So I really don't know what he never, in the letters that I have from him, he doesn't describe what he did. So you all would know better than I. But what do you all think of the Rosies?
Right?
Tough rods.
Yeah, they are. And I really do think my mother would have liked them a lot. And I wish I could find them. I really would like to go to Wichita and find their descendants, but it's, so far I haven't had any luck. But one day. But when the letters, almost all the letters I have are in the envelopes with the stamps.
How much were the stamps?
This was 1 cent each.
But remember, a penny was a lot more valuable.
Have you read them all?
Yes. But I have so many, and as I said, probably none of you have ever heard of the HM2 Rona. It stands for His Majesty's Transport Rona. And it was built in the 20s as a luxury liner. And like a lot of stuff, it was converted to use during the war and became a troop ship. And my Uncle Bill was a lieutenant in the 853rd Engineers Aviation Battalion, which was a new unit that was formed in Dyersburg, Tennessee. And they left from Newport News Virginia, headed to what's called the CBI, China, Burma, India Theater of War. And they were in Iran, Algeria for a while, then they boarded the boat. It was part of a convoy of ships, some American ships and British ships. And on November the 26th, 1943, it was hit by a radio-controlled, rocket-guided missile. It was a new weapon of war, and more than 1,000 U.S. soldiers perished. It was classified by Roosevelt and Churchill. They didn't want news to hit the home front. There had been a little bit of news that slipped out, and I became sort of intrigued because some of the letters, and my mother was devoted to her younger brother. They were very, very young when their mother died. And some of the letters would say, "Dear Eva, those questions you ask me must go unanswered." And then Aunt May, my uncle's wife, spent the war years in the Blue Ridge Sanatorium. She would say, "Dear Eva, maybe that's when all those men were lost." And then in, I think, 2004, I called my cousin in Easley. My aunt and uncle went and said, "What in the hell is going on?" And he sent me a 10-page letter that my uncle wrote in September of 1945. After the sinking, as I said, it was classified. The soldiers were told, under no circumstances are you to discuss this or to write home about it, or you'll be court-martialed. And a few years ago, some of my Rona survivors friends, we had a program at the FDR library, and they never heard of it. At ROHNA, Rona Survivors Association. And a few years ago, we were in England, went to the Imperial War Museum, and I'd asked some of the judges, "Where's the exhibit on the Rona?" "The what?" "The Rona." And I went into the library and I found a book, 1943, Disasters at Sea, and there's a reference to the Rona, a new weapon of war. And that's it. And Fritz was showing me something about my great-great-grandfather, Samuel Greenfield Barr, who was a Revolutionary War soldier. And maybe you could tell everybody where he served?
He served, according to Bobby Moss's book on South Carolina, the Revolution. He served in the 4th Continental Line of South Carolina. Ended in 1777. I don't know much about that unit. That was a later one.
You know, I've been on a journey. I've gotten very involved with what happened to Japanese Americans, but I also got very involved with what happened to Jews in the war. And during World War II, as you well know, sir, Jews served in higher numbers than their population. And if you've ever been to DC in the National Museum of American Jewish Military History, you'll see that they'll tell you there's a perception that Jews have not served in the American military. That is not true. Samuel Greenfield Barr, my great-great-great-great, was a Jew. Another thing I inherited was the 1797 Constitution of the Presbyterian Church that belonged to Samuel Greenfield Barr. And my mother was not around in 1797. And my cousin and I met in Philadelphia. We donated it to the National Presbyterian Historical Society. They had one copy, extremely rare, and the copy we donated was the only one related to a family. And I am named Catherine Barr, who would have been my great-great-grandmother. And if you go to my website, which is very easy, deareva.org, you will see cousin Clifton Barr, whom unfortunately I didn't know, but I have about 20 letters from him. And cousin Clifton married the colonel's daughter, and he was stationed in France. And one of his letters, I always like to quote it. He says, "Dear Eva, he's in France. We were flying, and a German plane came through the clouds and shot our plane down. We crashed. The pilot was killed. I crawled into a ditch. We were marching through little villages in France. French girls were coming up to kiss us. Please forgive me for taking so long to respond to your nice letter." And cousin Clifton married Avis McBride, and her father was General James McBride, who spearheaded the Corregidor campaign under MacArthur. He was on the Bataan Death March and did not survive. And I have a letter where cousin Clifton writes to mother and said they went to the Philippines
to get his ashes. And he is buried in Fredericksburg, Virginia, where he was from. Truth is stranger than fiction. Reader.org. If you have any questions, or if you would like me to share any of my letters with any group you belong to, if you think the Rosies are too racy for any group, send them to me.
Say that website one more time.
My site, Dear Eva,
Okay.
All one word or two?
all one word.org. Eva was my mother, and if you go to my website, you'll see a picture of her. And you'll see a picture of my father and cousin Clifton. I don't have any pictures of it. I have a few pictures of my father's girlfriends, but I don't know which girlfriend is which girlfriend. And I legally changed my name from Catherine to Rascal Baby.
You have plans for preservation of all this information you have.
I'm sorry?
You have plans for preservation of all your.
Yes, I've donated a lot of stuff to the Upcountry History Museum, quilts, furniture, photographs. I haven't decided yet where the letters will go because I have a lot of them, and I'll probably donate them to Army Heritage.